With the past couple of updates in Gran Turismo 7, we've had multiple changes that have affected how the cars handle and how the performance point system is calculated. And with those updates, some of the older tunes have unfortunately been made outdated. So with this video, this is going to be an updated tune for the Mazda 787B for the Neoclassical Challenge in Gran Turismo 7, and this tune is accurate as of version 1.25. And one thing I want to note is that the AI setting has been set to hard. This is Mr. MCA. Let's get this started. So the first thing I'll show you is the tune itself for the Mazda 787B, and I want to give a quick thanks to AMS Dude for helping me out in trying to figure out this tune and how to make this car pretty fast, especially with how limited you can tune the car to 800 performance points. The front downforce is at minimum downforce, the rear downforce is a max rear downforce, and do note that the 787B now has a turbocharger, the high RPM turbocharger, and we can actually stuff in a little more horsepower compared to if we don't have the high RPM upgrade. So you will need that if you want to try to get as much power as you can without adding too much ballast. In this case, we only added 3 ballast. Be aware that we are using the fully customizable manual transmission. Move the final gear first to 4.100 and then adjust the individual gears. And again, another thanks to AMS Dude for helping me figure this one out. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description down below. Please check him out because he makes some really good Gran Turismo tunes. So the first event that we'll cover is the 10-lap race at Big Willow with all racing tires. Fuel is a times 10 and tire wear is a times 12. So these multipliers are pretty high. In the Mazda 787B with this tune, you want to go for the no stop, and actually you want to go for the no stop in all the races unless if weather becomes an issue. Here at Big Willow, weather is not an issue, so you're going for the zero stop no matter what. As long as you don't over rev the heck out of this car, you should be fine when it comes to fuel. So basically, shortly after the bar on the bottom of the screen starts to blink, that's when you can shift up and you should be good on fuel. And on some turns, so for example turn 4 right here, you can just stay on a higher gear, only briefly going down a gear to help the car turn in a bit more. And for all 3 races, so here at Big Willow, Red Bull Ring, and Fuji, you just want to drive as fast as you can. You want to try not to get held up by anyone because the Group C cars that are in the front of the pack, they are actually pretty fast, and if you're getting held up or you're battling out way too much, then it's going to be pretty difficult to catch up to them and pass them, especially in the other 2 races. And Daniel Salas, who is in the Suzuki Escudo, kind of holds up a number of the Group C cars, so you want to hope that he's able to keep them from breaking through, because the longer that he holds them up, then the better chances that you'll be able to catch up to them sooner than expected. Do be aware that front tires do wear out quite a bit here at Big Willow, and that's because Big Willow has a number of high-speed corners which melts your tires, and the times 12 tire multiplier doesn't help. So when you're going through these turns, just don't turn in way too much. So for example, bringing that dot above the shift bar, bringing it all the way to one side or the other side, as you'll get steering lock, and at that point you're kind of just using your tires as like an eraser. So you want to try to be a little mindful about how much you're turning in to make sure that those tires last the entire race. So there you go, 11 minutes 6 seconds total time for the Neoclassical race at Big Willow. And again, easy zero stop race, just don't rev it out way too much and keep an eye on your front tires. Next up is a 10-lap race at Red Bull Ring where the fuel is times 8 and tire wear is a times 9. With the setup that we're using, tire wear is not an issue. Fuel, not really an issue. Just like in the last race, don't over rev it way too much and you should be fine when it comes to fuel. So just after the bar on the bottom of the screen starts to blink, shift up. So just like in the last race at Big Willow, you need to go for the zero stop because some of the Group C cars do not pit at all on the hard difficulty. So you have to go fast, you have to be pretty aggressive when you're trying to pass the AI cars, and once again, you cannot pit at all. The only exception is if rain is enough of an issue to where you need to switch to the intermediate or wet tires. In this race, rain did not make an appearance. It barely missed the track, so this was a zero stop race on the racing hard tires. But be aware that the weather is random in this race and in the Fuji race as well, so what you see here may not be the same exact story when you do your race. In your race, you might get torrential rain to where you have to go get the wet tires. And in terms of fuel, as I mentioned earlier, don't over-rev the car way too much because fuel is a little bit of an issue, and it can become a big issue if you get really careless and just rev the heck out of the car all day long. So you want to use 10% of fuel or less per lap. So for example, at the end of lap 1 right now, just reaching 90%, so I'm doing good in terms of fuel. And one thing to note is that sometimes the EI cars do mess up. So right now there's a yellow flag. I have to go right behind this Mercedes so I don't pick up a 3-second penalty. And that's because the Jaguar in front of the Mercedes ended up going off the track. So he really messed it up at the hairpin on turn 2 or 3, however you want to look at it. And that's a good thing for you if those EI cars mess up, because they lose a bunch of time, which means that you could potentially pass them a lot sooner than you normally would if they didn't mess up. The other thing is that Salas's Escudo does hold up the cars once again, so if he's able to hold up the Group C cars for long enough, it is possible to get past all of them before Salas's car goes to the pit stop, because he tends to pit around the end of laps 5 or 6, and that's if the track is still dry. So there we go, get past the Escudo. So now we're in first place. We're doing pretty good on fuel, so 51%, so just a little bit under halfway done with the fuel in the race. And in this lap, so in lap number 7, that was when the rain got pretty close to the racetrack, but it didn't get close enough to where it actually started to rain. And even if that little tip did reach the racetrack, it wouldn't have been enough to really have to worry, because I think that's light rain, so that wouldn't be an issue at all. But towards the end of the race, being really close towards running out of fuel, so once again, as long as you don't over rev the heck out of the car, then you should be fine when it comes to fuel. And that's going to be it for this one. So this was a zero stop race, 14-minute race where rain never appeared in the race, but be aware that rain can appear when you do your race here at Red Bull Ring, as the weather is dynamic. And actually, I did try a couple races here at Red Bull Ring, but rain just didn't want to show up, so I guess I got pretty lucky there. But on towards the next and final race, 10-lap race at Fuji International Speedway, where fuel is a ×10 and tower is a ×9. Tire wear is not an issue with this setup, but fuel is an issue with this setup. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that right away. So on the main straight, so the super long main straight, you shift just after the bar starts to blink. So just like in the last 2 races, shift just after the bar starts to blink. After turn 1, so where we are right now, you can let the car rev it out just a little bit. But starting in turns 3 or 4, however you want to look at it, that's where you want to shift when the bar is halfway full, and that way you'll be able to save a bit of fuel, because once again, fuel is an issue. Going through the hairpin, I do rev it out on 2nd gear, but after that I start to shift halfway. There we go, shifting when the bar is halfway full, and I keep doing that until I reach the main straight. So by doing that for the fuel saving, you should be fine when it comes to fuel. And once again, you want to use 10% of fuel or less per lap for this race. Just like in the Red Bull Ring race, as I missed the apex right there, rain can become an issue to the point where you have to put on the intermediate or wet tires. The weather is dynamic, so one race, the rain might be torrential, so you have to put on the wet tires, and in another race, rain may never show up. So on the main straight, gonna rev it out a little bit, take advantage of the slipstream to save a little bit of fuel and to go even faster. crossing the start finish line and using 10% of fuel, so I'm doing good when it comes to the fuel situation. And do note that some of the AI cars, especially the Group C cars, do not pit at all, so you want to try to zero stop this race, as the Jaguar once again is turning into John Deere and is trying to mow the grass. But yeah, you want to try to zero stop this race because some of the AI cars don't pit at all. As I mentioned earlier, the only time you want to pit is if rain is enough of an issue to where you actually need them, and that is what's going to happen in this race. So gonna fast forward through this to where it's starting to rain a little bit, so the track is getting a little bit damp, so still doing good, but I can see that there's gonna be rain for a while, so I know that's gonna be time to pit. So on the main straight, gonna move on over towards the right side of the track, just stay in between the white lines so I don't pick up a 3-second pit cutting line penalty. Gonna switch over to the intermediates, and I know I'm using 10% of fuel each lap, so I know I'm good when it comes to fuel, so I'm actually going to ignore the little diamond right here, as that tells me how much fuel I need to finish the race. But at least in my case, the way that the fuel is being calculated in this race is a little bit slow, so it doesn't know that I'm actually good when it comes to fuel. So just want to put that out there. As long as I'm using 10% of fuel or less per lap, then I will be good when the race is over. But anyways, gonna go ahead and skip forward through this because yeah, there is a bit of heavy rain that does show up in the race. I was about 30 seconds behind the AI cars when I came out of the pit stop, but because the AI cars did have to go really slow through the third sector because the track got wet, now I'm about 8 seconds behind them before they entered the pit stop. I think I saw 7 at one point, so they lost a lot of time as they struggled going through the final turn, so I'm easily going to be able to pass them. So as long as I'm doing my short shifting just after turn 3, so shifting halfway from there on out, then I should be good when it comes to fuel, using 10% of fuel or less per lap. And for some reason the AI cars pit again. I'm not too sure why they did that, but generally speaking, if it never rains, a lot of the cars do pit once, but some have been reported to not pit at all, so try to go for the zero stop unless if rain is enough for it to be an issue. But at the end of this race, 16-minute and 44 race, and that's because the rain did become an issue. But that is going to be it for this updated video on the No Classical Challenge with the Mazda 787B. Again, another thanks to AMS Dude for helping me figure out the tune and to optimize it to make this car a little better for these series of races. But that's going to be it from me. Hopefully this video helped you out a bit, and if you like this video, you can press the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I do have a memberships program thing that you can check out down below if you want to further support this channel. It really helps me out. It really helps the channel out. And a quick shout out to the channel members. Just want to give you guys a quick thank you for the awesome support. But that's all from me. This is Mr. MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.